Hello everybody, my name is Colin White from BI Research. I'm speaking to you from the Northwest BI Summit in sunny Oregon. It gives me great pleasure to talk to Yves Montcheuil3. He's VP of Marketing at Talent. Yves, welcome. It's nice to see you in Oregon again.
Yeah, Colin, it's great to be back and thanks for having me.
It's good. So, we've known each other a long time. We've talked about data integration a lot. Data integration's been kind of the fundamentals of the whole BI and data warehousing space for many years. Is sort of what is different today? What are the issues facing companies from a data integration viewpoint today?
Well, Colin, companies have just too much data to deal with. They got data everywhere. They got, of course, the traditional relational data about their customers, about their product, their transactions, etc. But then you add to that a lot of newer data. Data they might be collecting through the social networks, data they are collecting about visitors to their websites, call data records for telco companies, financial transaction detail for financial institutions, and as a result you got more data than most companies can handle. And because they don't have all this data that's really all over the map, they are unable to extract value out of it, to get meaningful results out of this all this data.
Mm-hmm. So given these issues, what are companies doing today to sort of address these issues? What's different today? I mean, what's different is we got more data, more platforms. So how are they addressing these issues?
Well, first they need to make sure that they are giving access to this data to the right people. And this data, as I was saying, can be all over the map. It can be different technologies, different platforms. It can be structured, semi-structured, poly-structured, unstructured. All kind of technologies are at stake out there. And really the issue is to provide access to the business people, to the business analysts, to all this data. So what you need is consistent ways of accessing this data, consistent integration technologies that will, no matter where the data reside, no matter no platform you are dealing with, will grant this access. Organizations today need to be data-driven, essentially. The data is where the value resides. They need to be able to access, to extract, to get value out of this data. So what we are talking about here is enabling integration for the data-driven business.
So you feel that really for business to succeed, they have to become more and more data-driven in order to succeed.
That is absolutely correct. And organizations have been, more or less data-driven for a long time, but historically they were only dealing with a small portion of their data. The one that was already pre-hashed for them, that was coming through the dashboard, through the BI systems. Business intelligence is becoming more and more pervasive. Analytics should be accessible to everyone in the organization, and that comes by getting all the right data together. Not only all the data, but data that is trusted, that is governed properly, and that you know what you can get out of it.
Now, there's two things you mentioned here. One is just many other kinds of data. Some people call, we have structured data today that's highly governed, goes into data warehousing, and now we have this concept of big data, which means increasing data volumes, more complexity, but it also involves the other kinds of data you mentioned, like sensor data and web data, which is multi-structured in nature, and some of that may be governed and some of it may not be governed. How does that affect data integration?
Well, historically, big data has always been there. It's not really something new. What's new is the ability that organizations have to deal with it. The technologies have been, I would say, maturing slowly over time, and today you got multiple big data technologies that allow organizations to bring together all this data into a single platform, a platform that can easily scale out, that doesn't necessarily cost millions of dollars to deploy, to maintain, and that doesn't require PhDs in statistics to get value out of it. So all this, I would say, buzz around big data is really around the technologies that enable big data, and that will bring this data to the hand of people who need to make sense out of it.
But do you think all that data has to be governed and all has to funnel through this standard process, or do you feel that it's going to become difficult to actually govern all this data in the same way?
It will be difficult to govern all the data in the same way. So when you are dealing with, I would say, semi-governed data, if you want, you need to know what you're dealing with essentially. And when a business analyst is going to access this type of data, they need to know that the data is not necessarily entirely trustworthy. But still, it's not because it's not trustworthy that it should not be leveraged. You just need to use it knowing what it is.
Yes, so you've got to kind of decide what data is going to be governed, what data won't be governed at all, or what data may have some kind of governance, but the important thing is to let the business analysts and business users know that the degree of trust they can make in the data.
The degree of trust they can have in the data, and giving them the ability to access it exactly the same way and through the same processes and structures that I would say, the data they were able to access historically. Having multiple integration platforms is really no way to go for an organization. It makes things a lot more complicated, and it essentially limits the number of people who can actually make sense out of this data.
So, if we look at sort of people looking for data integration solutions today, I mean, a lot of it's been hand-coded. They have a variety of different data integration tools. So if we take where we are today with all this mixture of data and growing data volumes made a lot of different platforms, what are the requirements people should be looking for from a data integration viewpoint?
I think that what people want to look for is a single platform that will allow them to handle all the aspects of the data-driven business, essentially. So not only data integration as in accessing the data, transforming it, bringing it together, reconciling it, but also ensuring the quality of the data, the governance of the data, the reconciliation of data from multiple sources. And we are getting into issues such as data quality, such as master data management. Also the way to access data that might be in different locations, that might be in the cloud, for example, that might be accessible only through asynchronous protocols. So you're getting into additional technologies that will get you access to these data, such as web services, service-oriented architecture, the enterprise service bus, which is very efficient as moving data in asynchronous mode. And it's really important for organizations to bring all those technologies together, not to have to rely on multiple distinct systems, but on one single system that everybody in the organization, business analyst, data analyst, the data scientist even, but also the ETL developers will be able to access and to leverage.
When you say a single system, do you mean a single product, a single server, or a single ecosystem?
It's a single set of technologies. It doesn't have to be a single server because the data is highly distributed in nature, but you should have a single layer through which you will be able to access, manage, govern your data.
Okay, so a single interface for you to do that.
That's a single interface.
And we have this concept, a lot of people talking about data hubs and they would view the idea of bringing all the data, funneling it through a data hub and distributing it from there. Would that apply in this environment?
The downside of the data hub is that you have to replicate everything inside the hub. So I'd rather, talk about maybe a virtual data hub. Some of the data, frankly, is much better left in place, left where it resides. If you have data that has been loaded in a Hadoop cluster, you don't want to get it out of the Hadoop cluster in order to be able to do some, governance or quality or MDM on it. Leave it there. Have a technology that will allow you to go and process and integrate the data inside the Hadoop cluster. Some data, conversely, needs to be extracted from their sources. Transactional data is a good example, stored in a data mart, in an operational data store, in an enterprise data warehouse. But all those, I would say, platforms brought together through a single integration layer will give you control over all your data.
Now, if we look at talent, obviously the number of data integration vendors out there, what do you feel talent brings to the market here in terms of modern data integration?
Well, there are really two angles here, I think. The first one is that talent from the onset was created to democratize data integration and more broadly to democratize integration. The idea was, and still is obviously, to bring enterprise-grade technology to organizations of all sizes and for all their integration projects, so that integration projects should not be left only to the super wealthy organizations who can invest millions of dollars into an enterprise data integration platform. The second aspect on which Talent has been focusing heavily in the past 2 years is to bring together those integration technologies for the data-driven business. So starting with data integration, getting into data quality, our own MDM platform, acquiring an enterprise service bus that we have brought into the platform about 6 months ago, providing a complete data services solution, adding to the mix business process management. Talent today is in a position to offer the complete integration platform that the data-driven business need.
So basically, if I had to summarize then 2 points, one is to drive down the cost of data integration and give you a complete set of capabilities that you need to actually provide a complete data integration ecosystem.
The latter is correct. The first part, the cost is only a part of it.
Okay.
Open source democratizes in more ways than just the cost. The ease of adoption,
Okay.
the extensibility of the platform is also a very important aspect of open source that shouldn't be neglected,
I always
frankly.
forget that, right? Yes. It's
Don't
important
worry.
to remember, yeah. So anyway, this is an interesting subject. We could talk all afternoon, but I think we've covered the key points. So Yves, thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate it.
Well, it was a pleasure, Colin.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is Colin White. Again, thank you for listening. I hope you found it useful, and you'll be hearing more from the Northwest BI Summit in other interviews, so thank you.